Moving on with another round of the losers bracket, we're looking at Esgaroth's Ruins, another map that I have neither seen nor played on, so it's nice to see some new things coming out in the tournament rotation. Maybe this will end up in the map someday. It does look just at a glance as if it is particularly well balanced on a mirror, so should be fine. Should be fine. We've got Momo Uchiha in the top corner, gonna call him Momo for now. Cybrin in the lovely Pepto-Bismol pink color. I say lovely, but that brings back some memories of some not so pleasant evenings lying sick on the couch. Blinchik is in the bottom left in royal purple. Also Cybrin for a symmetrical matchup. That is quite the lovely amount of reclaim there in the center. 75 mass and a couple of those rocks, along with several 38s or so. Then we've got a little bit of reclaim around the outside edges of all of these great cliffs, boulders that have rolled down off the mountainside. Rowie pinging 1800 ladder, and Momo is 700 ladder. So judging by the ladder scores only, this should be a curb stomp, but at least we get to experience a new map. We can maybe analyze Blinchik's build and see what is going on. Any game you watch, even if it's a bad one, does lend you some information that you can possibly learn from. I love how there's a massive wreck out in the middle, but there's less mass in that wreck than there is in the little pebble over there. This little pebble, oh, okay, the little pebbles, these are probably both 5, but that one's 10. So there's more mass in this boulder than there is in that wreck. We've got a hunter over to the right-hand side, out for a little bit of merrymaking of the warfaring variety. Engineer going down on the top left, engineer probably going down on the right, but it is going to retreat as it sees those combat units coming in. Momo retaliating with a mantis, but it is going to be queued directly down, move order place behind where the lab is. You should definitely be going where you predict the lab will be and not where the lab is currently, because of course the lab is faster than you are, so unless you anticipate with superior maneuvering, you will never catch it having traveled where it is. A little bit of micro on the hunter, dealing a tad little bit of damage, but nothing too significant. Another hunter is actually coming around this corner. Actually, that's the same hunter that just killed the engineer over that away. And we just saw there a lovely little example of the OP EMP stun that the hunters are capable of. Also, hunters survive 2 hits from the ACU now for some reason. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I wonder what the feasibility would be of a 100% lab push from Blinchik. I wonder if Cybrin would actually be able to pull that off. Because with the EMP stun, they might be able to gain the upper hand against T1 units, depending on how solid your micro is. It'll be a very interesting thing indeed to try. 2 land factories online for Momo Uchiha, and I think this is going to be another criminal case of underproduction, because Momo is already on 3 land factories, is building 2 air factories. There's no factory in the work of the air variety for Momo. And Momo is now wandering out with his ACU to grab a single chunk of reclaim right there and maybe pester one of those scouts to death. He does, however, have a few mantis at his disposal, so he'll be safe at least in the short term. But in the long term, we're seeing a total of 8 land factories coming online with solid expansion from Blinchik. Already at 15 mass per tick versus 13 for Momo, 951 reclaim versus 64. This is basically going wrong in every single possible way, as Blinchik is prepping to mow down his opponents with extreme hostility. Blinchik grabbing a mass extractor with the ACU, a couple more with the engineers. There is reclaim up in the top edge, but it is guarded by a T1 point defense. That T1 point defense is apparently not going to trigger, though. That's an odd one. I wonder if there's simply no AI in control of it. That is very, very weird. So you could just walk up and reclaim the thing, and that is all fine and dandy. Okay. I like the little touches on this map, where there's like a little track through the snow down the hill on both sides. A lot of care was taken in this one, more so than most people put into producing maps. Well done, whoever the map maker is, for Esgaroth. Okay. Third land factory finally being started, but that engineer was killed by the T1 bomber that came to that edge. So Momo is still going to be falling behind in land production as Blinchik bravely presses forward with the ACU to kill off a mass extractor there, gaining just over 50% map control. I do like the fact that there are mantis moving around the left. That means that Momo is taking a little bit of an effort in at least raiding, but it's not going to be a terribly effective raid due to all of the units at Blinchik's disposal. On the north, this Mantis might succeed in taking out a T1 mass extractor, but it will take several minutes, and the power generators are now being hammered by Blinchik's bomber. As this game moves on, of course, the amount of units will grow ever greater from Blinchik, and Momo, I think, is going to be left in the dust. He did build out another T1 land factory on the front. He's got a T2 mass extractor, which, as we've discussed on multiple occasions, does loads of damage, I suppose, if you count how many tanks you can produce from that mass extractor. But seeing as there's no land factories to produce tanks from, that T2 max is going to have no DPS whatsoever. And on the other side, we see that there are no T2 mass extractors, although there is one halfway complete. The difference being, look at how many mass extractors Blinchik has, how much reclaim he has, how much income he has, and then we can probably say that that T2 mass extractor is completely justified, especially seeing as he has intel on the entirety of the map due to scouts being out and about and bombers flying overhead and all kinds of harassment tactics taking place. He knows that he's able to get that T2 mass extractor, he knows it, and that'll feed his addiction to further T1 spam. Momo, despite having barely any mass income, is actually overflowing and is not power stalling despite only having a paltry 8 power generators due to the fact that, as we've stated before, he has no build power. Blinchik, on the other hand, 25 mass income, 2,600 reclaim, 162 power up with a 400 base income and power, reclaiming on the front line with his ACU as he continues to build more units that shall be used to grind the pink units into a fine Momo paste. I think we shall just watch the slow demise of Momo as we sit and bemusedly observe his misplaced tactics and T2 mass extractors. Now, I can't hate on him too much because obviously not all of us play 1 versus 1s. I myself do, but I have only achieved a very scant 1100 ladder ranking, which at some points I think that I don't even deserve. But I think that anyone going into a tournament should probably at least watch a build order video, get something settled that he can do, and maybe think a little bit. Momo, I think, did not prepare. He might have maybe played a couple games on ladder, hence the 500 ladder ranking, and then jumped directly into the tournament. But you can't engage on a 5-kilometer map to any effect when you don't have a good basic build order. That I can say for an assured fact. Momo is still struggling to maintain parts of his base. We've got 4 Mantis moving around the back, though, that will surely relieve him of the remainder of his mass extractors. He might be down to a single T2 for his entire income, which would definitely be a bad place to be. We've got T2 air online for Blinchik, building a T2 engineer. Now, why on earth you wouldn't just go ahead and go for a couple of Corsairs to snipe the ACU? Corsairs to snipe the ACU or some such thing, I know not. But he is going for the full build. I guess more power to him. Blinchik now moving in on the base, may not have quite enough units to kill all of these due to the fact that the land factories will meat shield to a certain degree. But he is very, very close indeed to coming out victorious. 2 additional T2 mass extractors being built, playing the long and safe game. I'm going to bump the speed up here. I think we have enough overhead in the live replay to do so. That is the collapse of the forces. Momo is now at the mercy completely of Blinchick. And I do believe that we are seeing Renegade production. Yes, we are. That will surely go out into the world to find this commander and eliminate it with prejudice. Also radar. He does not have intel and has become Brink. I suppose that that is a fair observation. Triax. Momo. Momo, you might be dead here. You might indeed be dead. Yep, it's just a matter of time. So what can we learn about this game? We can learn that 1, you need a build order, 2, you need reclaim, and 3, you need intel to be able to compete in a 1 versus 1 tournament. I have 2 of those things. I am still lacking on the intel front, but maybe one day, I can strive to achieve status in the upper ranks of FAF. Momo's gonna go down, dipping below 2,500, and kaboom! There he goes. Well played, Blinchick, and a nice attempt from Momo. Again, we shouldn't be too harsh to him because I know that he is not a ladder player, but maybe with a little bit of practice, someone with a 1400 rank anyway, does at least exhibit the potential for playing a little bit better than that. I think we're up to round 4 in the losers bracket, if I'm not completely mistaken, and I might be. So feel free to correct me at some point in the comments if you so desire. The matchup is on Theta Passage, and it's between Inspector Cot and Who Is This Noob? And I expect this one to be fast and furious and over very quickly, because Theta Passage is one of the most brutal maps in Subcom history. It is small, it is unforgiving, it has very few mass extractors, very little in the way of mass reclaim, although you do get some rocks here and there and everywhere, and your build order is of the utmost importance. Inspector Cot dropping Land Factory first, as is to be anticipated, moving up to assist the Hydro after building a mass extractor, and then we've got other engineers spreading out to do the dirty deeds that they do in service of the Cybran. Who is this noob on the north side? Also Cybran. I can't remember if I actually introduced the players or not. He has gone first Land Factory, has a very equivalent build, is going for 3 mass extractors before the Hydro, and then immediately building an additional Land Factory. He did, however, get a T1 power generator up in the rear of his base in order to have that little bit of extra income that lets him roll directly into another Land Factory instead of having to build the intermediary power generator, as Inspector Cot is doing. Now, if we flip over to Inspector Cot's eco, he did not actually need that many power generators. He's going to be overflowing 76 power as he's building these land factories. He could have had 1 more land factory built by now had he only gone for 1 additional power generator and then spread out his P-gens over time. But we are going to see 2 land factories online, ACU moving slightly southward, and violent micro on that lab from Inspector Cot, but to no avail. The Mantis very nearly died, but it did not. Mantis engaging with Noob's ACU, gonna get pestered to death over on that edge, and then 2 Mantis engaging on the right flank for... oh, nope, hold on. That was a Mantis or a Hunter? That was probably a Hunter, I think. The Hunter has been killed in its pursuit of the engineers. So all in all, Who Is This Noob is slightly behind on expansion. We've got the 5th land factory going down versus the 4th land factory going down. Inspector Cot looks like he is fairly well ahead. However, Noob has gone up to the front and has gotten a fair bit of reclaim from the front edge. He is going for a much more scant power build, better optimized build, one might say. And Inspector Cot is only just now moving his ACU up into the fight. So we have yet to see exactly how effective that early spread will be for Inspector. A couple of raiding units on the left. Inspector Cot will be able to easily deny with a superior number of Mantis from his superior number of factories. But in the rear, Blue is definitely catching up. Noob is laying in his 6th factory versus the 6th and 7th for Inspector Cotton. He will be slightly ahead on his 6th and plans 1 more factory in total. So obviously on this type of map, you do not want to get a T2 Mass Extractor upgrade, as we have discussed many times before. But Noob is going to hold the expansion on this edge. Die it might, but he does get the income, at least temporarily, from a couple of additional Mass Extractors, which will help him out in running his extra factories. This is going to be an interesting little engagement, never mind, because 2 of those Mantis are at critically low health. Was about to say 3 versus 4, but it's a stream versus a firing squad clump. But of course, when a couple of your Mantis are already on critically low HP, you're not going to have a good time going up against that. Mantis running in the center, Inspector Cott doing a fantastical job of hitting where there are no units. He might actually succeed in killing off one of these Mass Extractors. He will indeed, at the sacrifice of a couple of Mantis. Other than that, though, things seem to be going in favor of Noob. He is losing out on a couple of things around the outside edges, but all in all, his positioning seems good. He's got a little run-by happening on the other edge that is drawing units away from the front. Inspector Cott, though, is going to get the reclaim from that last engagement. So what I just said might not hold any weight. 2 Mass Extractors going to drop on the south. Who is this Noob? Catching up on the raiding parties quite nicely as the ACUs exchange blows in the center, neither having a significant lead on HP. Of course, there is always the fear of mutual destruction on Theta. It does end quite often in a draw, but we are starting to see a pretty significant increase in the number of blue units on the field as opposed to red. Who is this Noob maintaining 26 mass income as opposed to Inspector Cott's 14, now up to 20 with a little bit of reclaim. And that amount might not be large, but when you're dealing with numbers this low, that is a 25% eco advantage. It looked like those ACUs were playing Pong there for a second. Interesting little thing going on. Who is this Noob down to 6,700 HP versus 5,600 HP for Inspector Cott? But there is the collapse of the frontline units. And Inspector Cott is not dead already. He may not be long for this world. Oh my. But he was able to defend his commander. Blue did not overcommit. That could have ended badly for him, as we all know. There are some Mass Extractors missing on this edge, though. Inspector Cott slowly climbing back up in economic status. That's going to be 2,900 reclaim versus 2,600 reclaim, about 6 tanks difference in reclaim numbers. But of course, Who is this Noob has maintained a pretty significant advantage for most of this game in economy. So I don't think that reclaim is enough to make up that difference. With the Mass Extractors being built on the outside edge by Inspector, though, we may be seeing a tip. Noob at a 2 mass deficit now. But of course, Inspector Cott is struggling to keep the amount of units at the front line necessary to protect himself. We've got 2 more land factories now for a total of 8 that are producing on 25 mass income with a beautiful bit of eco balance, at least for the moment. His ACU is struggling for HP, though, 6,000 to 3,000 health. You might not want to front with that low of an HP on your commander. On the north side, we have 8 factories, so it is 8 versus 8. Theoretically, the person with the higher eco should win, but of course, you got to factor in the reclaim in that formula. Raid now being successful on the north edge. Inspector Cott is going to lose that advantage that he just gained, and his ACU now dipping below 2,500 HP. Units are roughly evenly distributed. Inspector Cott may gain the upper hand here in... Nope, never mind. There are units coming down to reinforce from the north. Noob has been able to clear the south side and now has units on every edge of Inspector Cott's territory. This is not looking particularly good for him as Noob rises up to 26 mass income due to rebuilding all of the Mass Extractors on his side and he's eliminated 6 mass extractors for Inspector Cott, pushing him down to 13 income per tick. Inspector Cott risking his low HP commander on the front line in order to get this reclaim. Of course, he does have 27 regen per tick versus the 21, thanks to a little bit of extra veterancy. That ACU, of course, bumping up to the yellow HP and gaining quite rapidly. He has got to get this mass, otherwise he loses automatically. But I think that overextension is going to catch him off guard. Inspector Kotz, no, dropping 400 HP in the blink of an eye as his ACU is surrounded by units. 2,000 HP on the dial. Noob focus firing for a brief moment. 1,400 HP and 7. It's gonna be close. 200, 100, and Escape with a scant layer of HP, a single overcharge from death, and unfortunately for Noob, that actually decreased his overall unit count by a pretty substantial amount due to the fact that his focus fire on Inspector Kott's ACU let Kott's units kill off quite a few of his Mantis. However, that ACU, 3 vet now with 33 regen, barely over 1,000 HP, gonna get stabbed in the back by a pincer maneuver. There goes the nuke, and Inspector Kott takes the victory. Another fast and furious one on the Theta Passage. That is what I mean by this map being incredibly quick to play out. It is these tiny little differences. A single mass extractor here, a single wreck over there, 500 difference in reclaim. On a map that plays as tightly as this one, the most insignificant little difference makes for the victory. I am not even going to call out that game. I am not brave enough to try to decide exactly what the tipping point was, but good game to both of these people. Inspector Kott dropping out of the tournament with this loss, and who is this noob advancing to the next round of the losers bracket? That is gonna wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.